industry.
Selina Green on ABC Southeast.
Staying on this topic this morning, joining me this morning is the CEO of the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, Ben Morgan. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Selina.
Have you had a chance to have a look through the ATSB's report released yesterday, and what are your thoughts on some of their findings?
Look, we're still working through that report at the moment, and as you can appreciate, there's a huge amount of information that we need to work through in technical detail. But at this stage, what I would like to say is that whilst the report does deal with the forensic aspects of the accident sequence and outcome, it really does appear to me that this report veers quite outrageously off course into a realm of fantasy and make-believe. And I think that this report ultimately will do an enormous amount of damage to the credibility of the ATSB if it is not withdrawn and this investigation started again.
We just heard Senator Rex Patrick from Centre Alliance there question some of the data that the ATSB has used to in their assertion that passengers on these types of flights, these charity type flights, are at a much higher risk than other types of aviation. Do you agree with his assertion there that the data hasn't been assessed properly?
This data has been incredibly manipulated, and I'll say that again very clearly. The data has been manipulated to produce an outcome to support a predetermined course that both CASA and the ATSB chose to travel on. Now, I understand the ATSB is supposed to be an independent organisation, but I can't believe for the life of me that the ATSB has operated independently with this. It appears from what has taken place last year, that both CASA and the ATSB have been singing from a pre-organised hymn sheet. And what they seem to forget is that the industry are not fools. Pilots are not fools, and the aviation industry will not be fooled. A cursory review of the accident report shows that the ATSB have decided to simply exclude data which would not support them in producing a finding which they have in my opinion, falsely presented these community service flights as being more dangerous than ordinary general aviation. It's just simply not the case. And I'm aware that the Angel Flight Organisation has themselves employed or contracted some highly experienced and well-credentialed statisticians to review the industry data, and the results there are staggering. They're staggering because it shows that the accident and incident rate for the community service flight sector is no different to ordinary general aviation. Now, how have we gotten to a point where Australia's Accident Transport Safety Bureau could produce a report that shows something entirely different when the data is very clear in saying that there is no difference? I think it's astounding, and I'll repeat it again. I think that this report ultimately will live to haunt the ATSB because this report is a huge hole in the side of their credibility, unfortunately.
Will this, though, possibly come to haunt services like Angel Flight or the public perception that people have of, this type of aviation? I mean, what could this do to public perceptions of services like this?
Well, Selina, I'll tell you what I think that's going to happen now as a consequence of this report, and that is that the government has now fueled an enormous amount of resource behind the industry to see to it that this report is investigated, that the way in which this report was put together is reviewed, and I have no doubt, absolutely no doubt in my mind, that what this has now done is has created an environment where there's going to be some significant questions asked of the processes involved in the investigation, the appointment of individuals to perform those investigations, the way in which the data was manipulated for these investigations. I think that this is going to create a problem for the government. I think that the Minister for Transport has a responsibility at this point in time to come and sit with industry and to listen to the genuine concerns that the industry is putting forward in the fact that this report appears to lack credibility, and get this report withdrawn and get this investigation started again, because this report does not serve to produce a result which in any way honours those that have tragically lost their lives. It in no way serves to honour the improvement of safety for the aviation industry because, as the Senator has rightfully stated, and this is a fact, that the changes introduced by the Civil Aviation Safety Authority have nothing to do with the causes of this accident. And yet they've been rafted through in an attempt to make it look like CAS has done something when in fact they've done nothing at all. And that's the key in this. The safety regulator have done nothing. They've pulled the wool with the assistance of the ATSB over the eyes of the Australian public. The public should be incredibly concerned with what the ATSB has delivered. And I think that, as I've said, the Minister for Transport needs to withdraw this report. This investigation needs to be started again. It needs to be supervised. And if necessary, let's bring in some accident investigation experts from the United States or Canada or another country where they've got professional accident investigation teams. And let's have a joint investigation to get to the actual facts, because this report is a credibility landmine. It's blown a hole in the side of the ATSB, and I think it now leaves the ATSB in a position where they're really going to have to explain why they decided to manipulate the data and what were their motivations behind that.
Ben Morgan, we're going to have to leave you there, though we are running out of time. We appreciate your time this morning.